Democratic gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke says he has come up with a plan on how to protect our Texas children. O'Rourke plans to talk about his ideas tonight at the Asian American Resource Center at 5:30. But first, he joins us live right here on KVUE Midday. Welcome, and thank you so much for taking time to address our viewers.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with you. Looking forward to seeing everybody tonight at 5:30 in Austin.
Absolutely, Mr. O'Rourke. First, how do you plan to protect Texas children from school shootings?
We've got to listen to the communities that have been affected and impacted by this gun violence, and to the survivors who tell us that you're not going to reduce gun violence without addressing guns in the state of Texas. There's a lot of common ground on issues that would save lives, like a universal background check that would stop some of the shootings that we're seeing in this state, a red flag law or extreme risk protection order that allows law enforcement to intervene when someone with a firearm is threatening to harm themselves or someone else, safe storage laws that say if you have a child or someone who may be a danger to others in your home, you've got to keep that firearm locked up so that they cannot use it against others in our community. There's lots of common ground on these issues, but we need to do something or we will be complicit in the next shooting and in the next school shooting in some community across the state of Texas. And none of us want to be part of that. So the moment for action is now.
Well, this week, speaking of action, Governor Greg Abbott announced measures on how he plans to protect children. He directed the lieutenant governor and speaker to come up with legislative committees to tackle topics like school safety and firearm safety. He asked the TEA to do a number of things, including instructing all school districts to conduct weekly inspections of doors to make sure they're secure. What else should he be doing?
I think we all know that that's not going to cut it. This is the 6th mass shooting on his watch. After every one of these, he promises action, and we have yet to see a single thing that will improve safety and protect lives. In fact, by signing permitless carry that allows anyone to carry a loaded gun on our streets without a background check or any training or vetting whatsoever, he's made it more likely that we'll have more shootings. He's called for a committee, as you said. The governor uniquely has the power to call for a special session, which, as you know, he did last year to make it harder for people to vote, to decide which athletic sports that transgender students could play in. He has called special sessions for things that aren't truly urgent emergency issues in the state of Texas. This one is an emergency. We're losing the lives of our children right before our eyes right now. So the governor should call a special session. Everything should be on the table, including improving our gun laws and moving Texas from 50th in the nation in mental health care access to number 1. A great start to get us there would be to expand Medicaid and bring $10 billion in federal aid into our communities to hire the mental health care providers that we need right now.
And speaking of mental health, let's go back to that press conference in Uvalde where you interrupted Governor Abbott while he was discussing mental health resources for survivors. You were emotional in that confrontation where you blamed the governor for the shootings. Why did you do that?
First of all, I didn't interrupt him. He finished saying what he had to say, which was absolutely nothing. Nothing about how to prevent the next school shooting, nothing about how to expand access to mental health care, nothing to address the fact that we have seen 5 of the worst mass shootings in U.S. history in this state in just the last 5 years. And he and the Republican majority in the legislature have done nothing to avert the next one. In fact, have made it all the more likely. Someone needs to stand up. Someone needs to do something, or we're going to continue to see this in our communities. I was here in El Paso on August 3rd, 2019, when 23 of my neighbors were slaughtered in a Walmart by somebody who was inspired by this governor's rhetoric about it, repelling an invasion, defending ourselves, taking matters into our own hands. That person brought an AK-47, a weapon of war, into that Walmart and killed people simply based on the color of their skin and their perceived immigration status. I was there when he said he was going to do something about it afterwards and did nothing. So we all have to stand up at this moment to be counted, to take action, and to do what is necessary to prevent the next tragedy.
Last night, we heard President Joe Biden say he wants to ban assault rifles. You want to ban assault rifles, knowing that it isn't quite a popular view here in Texas. How do you make that message resonate with independents and Republicans?
Let's start where there's some common ground. Most gun owners, non-gun owners, Republicans, Democrats alike, can agree on a universal background check. We don't have that in Texas, which means that in Midland, Odessa in 2019, a guy who was denied a gun from a federal licensed arms dealer in that community was able to buy privately an AR-15 and then use it to kill 7 people in that community. Universal background check, we can get there even with the Republican majority legislature. Safe storage laws would have averted the massacre at Santa Fe High School in 2018. Let's do that. Most of us can agree on that. And then making sure that we have an extreme risk protection order so that we can intervene before someone uses the firearm in their possession to do the things that they've told their family, their colleagues, their classmates they are going to do. We don't have a law right now that allows police to intervene. So I think there is broad bipartisan consensus and agreement on at least that much. It allows us, we won't solve or prevent every tragedy of gun violence, but we'll do a lot more to reduce the number that we have in Texas. That's a great place for us to start. And as governor, I intend to get that done within the first year of my administration.
Gun control, reproductive rights, a power grid, all these issues you're passionate about. Are these issues enough to increase voter turnout in November?
All of these issues affect all of us. You know, Amy and I are parents to 3 kids, 1 in high school, 1 in middle school, 1 in elementary school here in El Paso. Like millions of other parents across Texas, we want to do a better job of saving the lives of our kids and everyone else's kids in this state. That's something that connects with every single one of us. The power grid failure, where Greg Abbott ignored the advice, did nothing to address the underlying vulnerabilities, pegged the price of gas at 200 times its going rate, and passed the bill on to us. It killed 700 of our fellow Texans. People froze to death in the energy capital of the world. We know that we can do better on that. CPS, Child Protective Services, doesn't get talked about enough, but 100 children have died in the custody and care of the state of Texas just since the year 2020, because that system is so badly managed and under-resourced that the Judge Jack, who's been following this, has talked about it going from bad to worse and kids emerging from that system more damaged than they went in. The common thread is Greg Abbott. He's doing nothing to save or protect the lives of the people of this state. And the people of this state, Republicans and Democrats alike, know that we can, will, and must do better.
Except public polls show you behind Governor Abbott in this race. What is your reaction to that? What are you not doing?
I love what we're doing. We are with 75,000 volunteers from across the state of Texas, talking to the voters who will decide the outcome of this election right at their doors. We're not waiting till September or October, right on the eve of the election. We're talking to folks right now at the beginning of June. This is reflective of the fact that it will not be a single candidate or a political party that wins this race. It's going to be the people of Texas. And I welcome everyone, regardless of the differences between us. I don't care who you voted for in the last election, the letter next to your name. All that matters is that you're a Texan and you want to do better. I am confident that as our volunteers reach out to people across the 254 counties of Texas over the next 5 months, because that's all that's left between now and the 8th of November, we are going to more than make up that gap. We're going to win this election, and we're going to have a governor who's going to serve all of the people of Texas.
Democratic gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke, he'll be discussing his plan on how to protect Texas children tonight at the Asian American Resource Center starting at 5:30. Mr. O'Rourke, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, we reached out to Governor Greg Abbott for an interview, but his office tells us he's not doing interviews at this time. But the governor is also looking at ways to keep Texas children safe. He is asking for special